little squeak is my chair.
That was your chair, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've got a squeaky chair. Sometimes when I'm sat on this chair, it just drops for no reason. I'm sitting here at my desk and then all of a sudden my chin's resting on the tabletop.
That's fun.
It is fun.
It sounded like a creaky door.
Yeah. Or maybe my knees need oiling. I don't know. Anyway, so we've made it to podcast number 2, haven't we?
Only just.
Only just?
Yeah.
Well, it's been a bit of a while since the last one.
Yeah, it's been busy.
Been a bit poorly as well. Yeah, that doesn't help, does it?
Yeah, we both got sick, didn't we?
Yeah. But that's not really what we're here to talk about.
No.
So today's podcast is the good, the bad and the ugly, isn't it, of ballroom dancing?
Yeah. Could be dangerous.
A little controversial as well, potentially. I might have
be.
to curb my tongue.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I don't want any lawsuits.
Nothing that bad, I hope.
No. I don't think we should do it in that order, though.
No, I think we should save the good for last.
Yeah, I think so too, because at least then we want some positivity at the end. Maybe a dash of good stuff whilst we're talking.
I was conscious after the last one that we did that it might have sounded like we were moaning about dancing the whole time. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't get that feeling from it.
Well, I was just conscious that it might come across like we think lots of negative things about it, but actually we do think a lot of positive things about it.
I think the thing that you've got to bear in mind is that most people always talk of the good things of dancing, don't they?
Well, particularly publicly.
Yeah, absolutely. So people are always talking about the good, even on the telly. If you watch Strictly, it's all about the good, isn't it?
Yeah, about
it's all
the
the
good,
positive and how wonderful it is.
But behind the
against
scenes,
exactly.
we know that there's a lot that goes on that's very stressful.
Yeah, of course. So when you talk about anything that's negative about what, obviously we can only talk about our business, dancing, then of course it could look like you're moaning, couldn't it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah, but the thing, I suppose, being positive about it doesn't mean ignoring what needs improvement.
No.
I suppose that's why we wanted to talk about this, didn't we?
Well, I think really today's is more just bringing some things to the front, making people aware of some things that go on and they wouldn't necessarily think about.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah,
because it's something that we wouldn't have thought about when we were competing either.
No,
actually, some of it
we were far too naive. Really,
yeah, oddly enough, naive. I mean, I can understand you being naive from Townsville in the middle of nowhere.
Townsville,
being plucked from obscurity.
It's not the middle of nowhere.
Well, it is when you're there. It feels that way.
Perhaps compared to here.
Yeah, and if you look on the Google map and then start zooming out, it literally is the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it's a long way from
This
civilization.
place is far more isolated than Townsville, though.
I know. Yeah, like I don't know.
Well, if you go
Portsmouth.
If you go inland a little bit in Queensland, their towns are far smaller.
This isn't geography lesson.
No,
It's not a geography lesson.
Let's not get distracted.
No, I don't even know where we were now. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, plucked from obscurity. So the naivety of you is understandable because of what you came from, the experiences you had in Australia. But I was here all my life.
Yeah, and you travelled a lot.
Travelled a lot.
You've done a lot.
Done all sorts of things and been a very successful amateur competitor. And still I was completely naive. No one ever pulled me to one side and said, do you know what? This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And if you want to be really successful, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
No one ever told me.
No.
I don't understand it.
I think there's a lot of people that just assume that everyone knows.
Absolutely
that's
right.
how you've got to be.
Or they think it's an unsaid rule or it's unsaid rules of dance. And
it's like a
that people
secret
don't really
society almost, isn't it? That you're either part of or you're not.
Yeah, and until you ask something about it, perhaps you're not included.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to...
Like it's a big secret. It's like, don't tell them, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not unless they say something and then, anyway.
Then maybe we'll think about it. But people that don't know much about ballroom dancing won't know what we're talking about.
No, they won't.
Yeah.
No, they won't. So just listen in, guys. Just listen and just absorb. We'll try and make it entertaining.
We'll and try. As simple as possible.
So the good will leave till last.
The good will leave till last.
The good will leave till last. So we can come back to that soon. So should we start with the bad or the ugly? Because really, to be honest, they're both the same, really, aren't they?
They're one and the same, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's, well, I suppose part of the bad we've already touched on with the previous podcast, which is the mental health.
Yeah.
And the thing that I really wanted to get across with that was that with dancing, like we said, there's a lot of positive things. If you're aware of some of the negative things that could come with it, you can address it or you can handle it better. So, like going into competitions, if you know what you're going in for, You can be better prepared. That's you know, and therefore it doesn't have to be a bad experience.
It's like a weather forecast, isn't it? So if you know it's going to rain really bad,
you dress.
You put a coat on and you put your wellies on and you get a brolly.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to get across with that, was that it's not all bad. It's just that if you don't know that there are these things that you come up against, then it's pretty hard hitting and pretty grueling. So if you're better prepared for that mentally, physically, emotionally, then you've got half a chance. That's how I felt anyway about it. And I suppose that is a big part of the bad and the ugly, isn't it? You know, is just lots of things about dancing, so can bring up your negativity, so comparison, jealousy, bit of envy perhaps as well. You know, it's very easy to get caught up in, oh well, they're better than me, and I'm not as good as her over there, and you know,
they've got more money than me, so they can spend more money than I can.
And that's how it appeared to me when we were competing, was that other couples who were similar to us in perhaps let's say talent, for lack of a better word, or ability, but just had a bit more money to spend, so they could have more lessons and they could buy better dresses and things like that, and that always used to make me feel pretty horrible, because I used to think, well, you know, how am I gonna get there if I just don't have the resources? And it's not like we didn't work hard, because we worked every second that we weren't dancing, didn't we? But we had to really graft for it, and they just had slightly better opportunities in the right place at the right time or whatever. I
think location helped some of the couples as well, because a lot of them lived in and around the studios in London as well, so they were seen more often. So so it would appear to the onlooker that they're practicing more and they're working harder and they're doing it. And obviously we had our facility in Fareham,
which we used because it was free.
It was free,
so we didn't have to pay.
Well, it wasn't technically free.
Well, no, but we could practice there.
Just as big and better facilities actually than the other studios we would go to for lessons.
Yeah, so we would save on travel. There was a lot of financial stuff that you know meant that it made more sense to practice there, but nobody saw us.
No, they didn't. But we knew that was an issue when we had a lesson once, and they said that maybe you need to work a bit harder or give what was it they said? I'm not going to say which teacher it was.
Give the impression
that we were interested.
Yeah.
Because we weren't seen as much. We weren't up in the studios as often as everyone else.
Going to their practice sessions and things like that. But to be honest, we went to practice sessions and no one was there. So.
Well, that's true. It wasn't like it was back in my day as an amateur. I'd go to practice at Cheam and you'd have 6 heats. Practice. Yeah. It's mental. Yeah. They don't get anything done.
They were good practices though, weren't
they? Don't get anything done though.
No.
Well, you did have a few of those when we first got together.
It had a good atmosphere for sure. But yeah, if you didn't have a lot of money behind you, it was a difficult thing. And I think that is a negative about dancing, because there's all this pressure.
So that's an ugly, isn't it?
That's an ugly, I think.
For sure, because the you can work your socks off at home, but if they don't see you working your socks off, they don't think you're trying hard enough.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think this is going to sound a little bit bad, but I think as well, if people don't think you've got a lot of money to spend, you're then not given the same time, or I don't mean time in a lesson. I mean perhaps the same opportunities in competitions. Like, people think, you've got to think about it, the teachers and judges know kind of who's who. Like, they get to know who's who by you going to have lessons with them. So if they kind of know couples and know, oh well, I know they've, you know, and I'm not saying they're consciously thinking about this, but they think, oh, they're up and coming, they could be really good. So could that affect the way they mark them? You know, but if they know someone's got no chance of ever financially supporting themselves through it up to, you know, the higher levels, maybe that do they bother? Maybe that puts a quash on it. And I do wonder sometimes if that happens.
Well, this is part of the problem of the whole system, isn't it? Because everyone has lessons with everybody, and there's no one coach taking responsibility for, you know, a small group of dancers, which is the way it should be, in my opinion. Really, I think people have far too many teachers.
I think
and put their trust in the wrong people.
I think couples feel a lot of pressure to have lots of lessons with lots of different people, so they're covering their base, aren't they? They're making sure that those teachers that are often seen on the panels, that they're being seen by them all the time, or as often as possible. And I don't think that's controversial to say that, because we all know it happens. It's just that people don't publicly
again, no one talks about it. I mean, I've said this for many years, is that there are people that teach because they judge, and there's people that judge because they teach, and they actually have no value to a dancer at all.
In some cases,
pretty much, because people only have lessons with them because they judge, but they only judge because they take people for lessons. So it's nonsense.
Yeah, it's a bit of
it's a nonsense. They
double-edged sword, or goes around in circles.
They don't offer anything, really.
Yeah,
we had those lessons.
You've got to put it this way: couples don't need to have, say, 10 different teachers on the go, do they?
No.
To make them better dancers. They need not even a handful of teachers. They need perhaps 2 or 3 really good influencers that help them with their dancing.
One main coach.
One
main coach.
Who helps with the mental side of it as well, perhaps. But because there are a lot of really brilliant teachers here. And
not just here, all over the place, all over the world.
Of course.
Well, it's apparent as well.
But you don't need to have lessons with all of them to become a better dancer.
See, this is why there are countries that have emerged and then overtaken and superseded many other successful nations, because they do exactly what we're saying. They have main coaches that run a studio with their couples underneath them, and they guide them and tell them what they should be doing, and then they get the coaches in from all over the place, the judges, let's say, they get them in for guest lessons, and it's how they get all those little bits of information.
And I don't
they get the quality from the world champions, but the coaches, the people who are running these schools in foreign countries, they haven't necessarily been world champions. They haven't been necessarily even national champions.
They can't teach
exactly.
Yeah.
But they know what's required.
I think that's quite a healthy approach and quite a healthy environment, actually, because I grew up dancing in a school. Not as educational school. I mean, a dance school where there was a camaraderie then. So we were all friends. You know, you made friends.
Team.
You became a team. You supported each other. So again, from the mental health side of things, doesn't mean that there's not still problems within that situation, but it means then you're not alone. You know, but what hit me hard dancing with you was that we were on our own, and yes, we had our teachers, but they could only give us so much time, and they could only really look after us within our 45-minute lesson. You know, but ultimately, as we talked about last time, it's what goes on outside of that can really make or break you.
But the thing is, you see, they don't have the time to look after you,
because
they're all chasing the money.
Well, yeah,
because they're filling their diaries, wanting to.
And you know, when it's a question of, you know, finances and trying to make money and things like that, of course you're going to try and make that a priority. You know, we would, wouldn't we? You know, but
I'd like to think we do it differently.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think there was a time in dancing where things got a little bit carried away. It might not be quite so like that now, because the world has changed quite dramatically. But I think, like I say, the pressure on couples, or the apparent pressure, I don't think it's like a direct pressure from people. It's not like these teachers are going around saying you must have lessons.
Are you serious? Do you not think that happens?
Do you think so?
Of course it happens.
Or
I've witnessed it.
Maybe I'm still naive.
I've witnessed it.
Yeah,
I've witnessed it when I've seen a teacher come out into the foyer area of a studio with their diary in their hand and go up to a couple and say, I haven't got you in my diary.
Really?
When are we going to put your lessons in?
Wow.
And they not forced, I suppose it's not forcing anyone, but
there's pressure
they
there.
pressured this couple to then book lessons there and then.
Wow, that I feel is not right.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong.
That I feel is
and
not right.
The people that do that, in my opinion, are the ones that haven't got any value. Because if you're good at what you do, and people know that you're good at what you do, you won't have a problem filling your diary.
Yeah.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay. If you didn't judge at all, but you're still really good at developing these couples, or the information you've got is good.
Have lessons,
people have lessons. They love lessons. But if you're one of those that only judges, or only judges because you teach, and only teach because you judge, then you are sometimes going to have to chase your lessons.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And if you don't judge either, if you don't judge very much, no one asks you to judge very much, then you're stuffed, aren't you?
Yeah. You're
really stuffed, and it happens all the time, and we know it happens all the time, and I've witnessed it firsthand, that people chase their work. They have to go and chase their work.
Yeah.
And say, oh, a quiet word in their ear. If you came to me, I'd help you. I could do you some good if you came to lessons with me. And that's ugly. That's terribly ugly.
Yeah, I think the trouble is, I think in this country, and it's possibly in other countries, but from our experience, there are a lot of teachers.
Too many teachers.
And is there really enough dancers, competitive dancers, to support that? And
not necessarily here.
I don't
but
think
other
there
countries,
is.
yes, there are.
Other countries, yes.
Yeah, because they've got a lot. But this is again this
But I
problem.
mean, from our perspective, dancing over here, there's a lot of teachers, and they're all seen at the best comps in the world as well. So there's that, like I say, that pressure, that sort of social pressure, to go and have the lessons with them, just so you think you've got a fighting chance to be seen on the floor.
Afterwards, actually, after we'd retired, we realised that we should have changed our approach slightly and had more lessons but less time with them, simply for advertising. Because it's in advertising, you have to have like an advertising budget, don't you? You go in and you go in there and you say, I can only do 45 minutes, but here's what we can do.
Yeah.
And they see how good you are.
Yeah.
Because we know what it's like when we judge.
What I mean about the awareness.
Yes,
side
of course.
Things. Yeah.
But then that's having lessons with the people that are only teaching because they judge, and only judge because they teach. So you're doing your advertising because they're always on the panel, so they need to know how good you are. Because as we well know, when you're judging, you've got a split second to make a decision. Yeah. And if you have a familiarity with a couple and you see them fly by, you know how good they are.
It's easier
because you just did a lesson with them, and then you know comparatively how good they are to the other couples on the floor because everyone else is having lessons.
And I have to say, it's really hard to judge. You know, I've only done a little bit, but the little bit that I've done, I appreciate how it is a really difficult job because you don't have a lot of time to put couples down. And when you've got, say, 12 couples on the floor who, let's face it, they're all really decent, how do you make that decision whether to put them through or not when you think, gosh, the difference is marginal? And in some cases you might even think the difference is none at all. It's just, well, I like pink and I like blue.
Yeah.
You know, it's subjective. And I'd like couples to know not to be disheartened if you don't make that next round, or you don't make that final, or you don't get that placing that you expect, because honestly, especially at the higher levels, they're all so good.
They are, but this is another discussion for another time, another topic actually. And the problem you've got is that everyone looks the same.
Yeah.
So this is another discussion for another time completely, but it's not ugly actually, because it's still quite beautiful to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But everyone looks the same. Everyone's learning, in ballroom especially. They're all learning from the same playbook, aren't they?
Yeah.
The same instruction manual.
You're talking about like the development of the
Yeah, so when we're talking
dancing.
high level couples, they all pretty much are from the same mould.
Yeah.
And there's no real difference. I mean, I remember back in the day when you had real diversity in the final, in the semi-final, you had real different, not abilities, but different approaches and characterisation of how they would take upon the dance.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to being, well, I like that style. That's what I really like. I resonate with that. So that's what I'm going to support. I'm going to mark that.
Yeah.
And you'd have all the judges having a different kind of feeling about it. But now, of course, it's just, they're all kind of like clones, which makes judging so much harder.
Yeah.
Because once upon a time, it was, if they've got a really good top line, then they're going to get through. Well, everyone's got a really good top line now. Everyone.
Yeah, particularly, and from a young age as well. Because when it used to be that, youth and even, like, say, early amateur days for a lot of people, they were still a little bit buckled in their shape or not quite strong enough and things like that. Now they're all super strong. And you sort of look at it and think, well, for me, sometimes it's all a little bit hard. But you look at it and you sort of think, well, I can't really fault it. You know, you really have to be so fussy on what you say you don't like.
Yeah.
Really, really critical. And that's like saying, like, as a dancer, I know how that feels. It feels like all of a sudden someone's handing me a card and saying, well, you're just rubbish. And that's just not the truth. You know, so anyway, I want a lot of couples to know that if you are trying to break through to the next round, or, you know, or you're just trying to win or get that little bit higher, please know that you're still a brilliant dancer. It doesn't matter what you come. You know, especially if you are knocking on the door of those that higher level. It's so tough out there.
The thing is, you see as well, some couples have got patience. Some couples haven't got patience. We didn't necessarily give ourselves any time at all. But that was due to lack of advices, to be fair.
And a little bit of naivety.
A little bit of naivety still as well, but you just got to give it time still.
Time.
Just got to give it time. Keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And eventually, those judges will realise.
Yeah.
They'll realise,
sometimes
actually, they're pretty good.
A dancer's development just needs time. It's not so much that they need more information or anything like that. They just need to keep doing what they're doing and just keep practicing. And eventually that sort of maturity comes at some point, doesn't it? And I don't think that's necessarily influenced by your lessons or your practice or anything like that. I think it's just kind of like what happens as you develop as a dancer.
Some people do it younger than others as well, you see, so some people mature, don't they, later?
Yeah.
I'm still maturing.
Yeah.
I'm still getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm ready, I think. I'm ready.
You're still an immature
I'm ready,
dancer,
coach.
aren't you?
I'm ready, coach, to go back in. See, it's not like athletics, is it? So you could be training for your 100 metres in between, I don't know, meets or Olympics or whatever, European Championships, and you could get your time down in the 100 metres. You could be running, 10 seconds dead, then you get to 9.98.
And this thing, ultimately, it doesn't matter what your form is like. I know it's still important, but nobody's judging your form in terms of how it looks. It's just, well, if you've run it faster, you've run it faster.
If you
however
let me
you
finish.
get there.
I'm on a little journey here.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah, just interrupt me.
Sorry.
It's normally my job. So you can be training and you can get your time down in between competitions. Then you go to the next event and you run the time that you've trained for and you win because you're the fastest.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. We could be in the studio, we could have been, or any couple, for 6 months working hard, getting everything better.
Yeah.
Everything is absolutely not perfect, but you know what I mean. Everything is so much better than the last time.
Yeah.
But you still hit the same result, get the same round because no one's noticed that you're better.
Oh, it takes
because
a
they're
while.
not looking. They're not watching you. Someone said a couple that we are close to said to us once, didn't they, that they'd asked a judge when they're in the final of the professional at the Albert Hall, asked one of the judges, one of their teachers, what they thought of their performance, and they said, "I'm really sorry, I didn't watch you."
Yeah.
And they came fourth. They came fourth or fifth, but that judge who was judging the comp they were in didn't watch them.
So they obviously placed them.
They just placed them where they should be in form.
Yeah.
And then worried about the other couples that they felt were battling it out between themselves.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I suppose we've both been a little bit guilty of that as well at times when we've judged, because you kind of know sometimes how a couple behave and perform in a comp, and you think, well, they'll be at that place.
Especially if
and then these couples are going to be challenging.
Yeah, if there's someone that's quite consistent in terms of how they perform or whatever, it's easy to kind of know where they're roughly going to be, isn't it? And that's what I mean about the judging. It's really hard.
It's tough. And that's another
It's really
ugly thing
hard.
about dancing, or a bad thing, I suppose, actually. That's a bad
I think
thing.
what this says is that the judging is not faultless.
No.
Is that the word I'm looking for? Do you know what I mean? Like it's not the perfect way to discern who are the best couples on the floor.
That's because we're an art form.
Yeah.
It's
And
because
I'm
we're
not
not a
sure.
sport.
I'm not sure there's a solution to that. But I think when you bear that in mind.
Well, there is a solution,
Yeah.
but it changes everything we do fundamentally.
Yeah, but just let me.
You finish. You go ahead, girl.
When you bear that in mind, that it is an imperfect way to establish who are the best couples. Just because someone's sixth doesn't mean that one next day they can't be first. Do you know what I mean? Because you have a different group of people, look at it all differently, and that's how it should be, really.
Well, as you said,
And
sorry, go on.
there's
You
another
can put your
thing.
hand up when you finished.
Yeah, there's another thing about the judging system. Is the majority always right?
That's what I was going to say.
Because I often feel like I'm someone who doesn't necessarily like what everybody else likes. And sometimes I feel a bit in the minority in that respect, and I don't know, like I haven't got anything to base this on other than my own thoughts and feelings, but when I hear people talk about certain couples and I think, oh yeah, that's all right, but I really like this and nobody's talking about them. So does that make me wrong? Because I like something else?
Well, no.
In terms of art, then no, because it's what you like, isn't it? You can decorate your house with whatever art you want, and if nobody else likes it, it doesn't matter.
Well, there's an artist at the moment, isn't there? I can't remember the guy's name, actually. It eludes me. But he's basically, they're like children's scrawls.
Oh,
Have
right.
you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Do you know, I've actually got the computer here in front of me. It came up a second
Am
ago.
I really that interested?
Well, it's interesting, actually. It's interesting. But keep talking
But
while I'm
you know what I mean? Like, so is it that I can see something in a certain couple, and there's no one in particular I'm talking about, but in a certain couple that nobody else can see? Or am I missing something in a couple that everybody else likes?
I can't find it.
And I think, well, in both, it could be either or, couldn't it?
Well, absolutely.
Absolutely. But that doesn't make it wrong or right.
No,
does it?
but it also then does put the thought in your head that is there an agenda? Are these
possibly.
people of a certain, these certain groups of adjudicators?
Obviously, judges are not supposed to talk to each other about other couples.
I know,
and things
but
like that. And that has never happened, by the way, in my experience. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about people in general conversation, not whilst they're judging.
But if they all come from the same studio or work with the same couples and meet each other socially outside of dancing, of course they're going to talk about it.
Yeah,
of course they
exactly.
Are.
Yeah.
Of course they are, and they're going to have an agenda about what kind of dancing they like, and they're all going to agree or not agree. And then some of the weak-minded people on the periphery of that group were going to go with the people who they think are right, aren't they? Because I've witnessed that. There's people who, these groups of professionals, let's say, who actually are relatively weak-minded and haven't got any thoughts of their own, and they just go with what they think is right because that person over there has won the world championships 10 times and said it.
Is it weak-minded, or is it just not having a strong opinion?
Well, it's
like sitting on the fence type of thing.
Well, maybe it's that.
Because, like I said, it is hard sometimes to pick your favourite.
But I always put that back to the fact that the majority of these people are people that judge because they teach and teach because they judge, and so they need to be part of something to still be relevant. So they've got to agree with a certain majority to maintain their work and their business and their livelihood. They can't afford to be different. They can't afford to have principles.
You mean have a different opinion?
Yeah.
So I suppose we talked about pressure on couples to have lessons, and couples feeling like they need to have a lesson with everyone or as many as they can. I suppose there's a pressure on judges as well to be seen to be making the right decisions.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I give you an example. I gave you an example the other day, didn't I, of when I judged a comp and a particular amateur couple got picket fences. They got ones from every single judge in every dance except me, and they got threes from me in every dance. And there was one couple that were third from every other judge, and they got all straight ones from me. And I got pulled to one side by the chairman.
Yeah.
But normally, when that happens, you think, oh no, what have I done now? I'm in trouble. But I was congratulated for being the only one with the balls to actually. Oh, it's all right. This is adults listening to this. Balls. We talk about balls all the time, don't we? I was the only one with the gumption. The gumption. No, the confidence. Let's say
the confidence. Yes.
Yeah. To
go
mark it how it should.
To go against the grain.
Completely against form. Completely against form.
Form. Yeah, that's the thing. Is that a form becomes established, and then once that happens, people are, let's say, fearful. Fearful's a strong word, but they worry about breaking out of that form, don't they?
They do.
In terms of judging.
Yeah.
And say, well, actually, I quite like this couple today.
I've done it as well, actually, when I judged a high-profile comp, and I marked someone who wasn't in the final, in professional. I marked them above the guy that was third. Because I liked it more.
Yeah.
I thought it was better.
Well, this is the thing about judging, isn't it? It's ultimately it's based on opinion, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Is just because one judge perhaps stands out because they haven't marked it the same as everybody else doesn't make them a bad judge.
No.
And it doesn't make the others a bad judge either. So this is what I mean. There's no right or wrong with these things. It's just a difference of opinion. It could be that people feel influenced by the established form, so they mark it, according to form or thereabouts, But I'm one of these people that doesn't really take any notice. I don't take any notice of what comps are going on. You know this. Who wins, who's in the finals, who's not making the finals.
You're a little bit more aware now because we run our comp.
Yeah, a little bit, but I still prefer to not really know, because I don't want that to become...
Well, you get influenced whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Because if you get familiar with couples outside of the dance floor, and you get to know them and you like them,
of course.
as soon as then, if you're judging them, it's so difficult to look at that objectively.
Yeah, because you think, oh, well, I really like them.
Yeah, which is, again, one of the reasons why we weren't quite
after
successful,
all.
because I was a bit of a...
People didn't like you.
People didn't like me because I questioned them too much in lessons and things, so I would get their backs up.
Yeah.
And they'd think I was too arrogant or full of myself and thought I knew better. Well, it wasn't. It was just I was on a quest for knowledge and truth.
Well, you're a mind that doesn't sit still, aren't you? You're very inquisitive and curious and questioning, not just in dancing. You're like that everywhere we go, aren't you?
Thank you.
Sometimes it's a pain.
Give me an. You've never told me this before. Why have you waited till now to tell me this?
I have told
that it's a bit
you
of a pain
before.
when we go out.
No, I don't.
Give me an example.
I'm saying that in jest.
But give me an example.
But no, I can't really give you an example.
Why?
Right now, because you're just like it with everything. You are. There's anything that comes on the news is questionable to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anything that goes on in politics, anything that goes on in whatever is happening in the world is questionable to you, and it is to me as well. But you've always been like that, always. You always question authority, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it is, but obviously that does get people's backs up.
Maybe I'm a maverick.
But I understand it, because it's always kind of like, well, why shouldn't we be questioning of establishments and authority and things like that? Because ultimately, it all has an influence on our life and how it affects our lives. So, we should be questioning of these things. And same with dancing. We should be questioning and asking, well, is there any other way we can do this better? And if not, then we got to make the most of it.
Yeah. Well, one of the best ways would be to stop judges from teaching.
Yeah.
But of course, that's just almost impossible.
And this is what I mean. Is it possible? Probably not. But then, okay, let's work on the attitudes of people. That, because for me, that's the only way you're going to make things better.
Well,
couples should not have to feel all this pressure. I mean, we've heard of people having, second, third mortgages on their home just to put their kids through dancing and stuff like that.
It's
and
nonsense.
I just, especially on young kids and stuff, and there's this pressure on parents to have certain dresses and to be seen, to be sponsored and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't need it. Stop it. Why? Especially like some people have got more money than others, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not knocking that. But, they're little kids. They shouldn't have to feel like they almost need corporate sponsorship in order to dance.
The thing that makes me laugh a little bit is all these Facebook pages with all these couples. They all have a fan page.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yeah. And, if it's just for fun, absolutely fine. But I don't see a lot of it as just for fun. I see a lot of it as they're all competing with one another to be seen again, isn't it? It's all to be seen, and I totally get it. You want your kids to do well and all that sort of stuff.
But you know what will happen if they dance really, really, really well? They'll be seen.
Yeah, I know.
And they need to focus on the dancing. The dancing's the most important thing, and I think unfortunately some people get lost in the publicity of themselves a bit too much.
Yeah.
And think they've got to be a brand, and think they've got to have all these Instagram videos and everything.
And I suppose this is all part of the bad and the ugly as well.
Yeah, it is very. I think it is quite ugly.
The social media has a lot to do with it.
And of course, it's not the children doing that. That's the parents.
No.
That's
the
the
parents
doing
are
that.
paying for everything, aren't they? So of course they're going to do whatever they can to make sure their child gets seen.
But ultimately, there obviously are going to be parents who decide to do whatever anyone says, they're going to do what they want. But the responsibility comes back to the teachers again, doesn't it? Because if I had a couple, if we had a young couple, that I'd say your focus is on getting better.
Yeah.
You get in the studio as often as you can, and you practice. You have as many lessons as you need, but not too many, and you practice. Don't worry about all the stuff online. Don't worry about all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Just practice. Don't focus
I think,
on trying to sell yourselves online.
Yeah.
Because it's nonsense. These kids are 10. Some of them.
Well, some of them are younger than that.
It's nonsense.
But it
doesn't hurt to have an awareness and say, "Well done, kids. Haven't they done well?" and that sort of thing. But to have a fan page and be promoting
it's not
stuff.
just kids, though, is it?
No. It
Even
goes right the way
adults,
through.
Adults and professionals.
And I mean, I can understand it if you're the world champion and if you're an ambassador for a certain.
If you are fully sponsored by someone or something like
that sort of thing. But again, these couples say they're sponsored, and actually, what it means is they get 10% off. Or they might get a pack of rhinestones.
Well, that is a form of sponsorship or something, isn't it?
But they behave as though they're, I don't know, the face of that particular brand.
I think the thing is...
And that's quite ugly.
They feel like they need a sponsorship in order to...
be validated.
To be validated. Or well, my kids are good enough to be sponsored.
But if every kid is sponsored,
or
which
even,
it seems that they all are, to me,
I know.
Then what does it matter?
Yeah.
Actually, if you're not sponsored, you're going to stand out more, aren't you?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean? And not even just kids, actually. It does go through
it goes everywhere,
to young amateurs and, even senior professional. Is it really necessary to attract sponsorships in order to be seen as a good dancer? No.
Sometimes it backfires as well, of course, because you can try and promote yourself and get exposure and say, look at me, and then people look at you and think, actually, you're not very good. You're not very good. It works the opposite way, doesn't it?
It could do, I suppose, yeah.
Well,
but I haven't seen that as yet.
I have. I mean, I've witnessed it because I'm a little bit more in it than you are, I suppose.
I think sponsorships are obviously there to help people and especially kids, because it is expensive to pay for all these dresses and shoes and goodness knows what else, of course. So not knocking that in the slightest, and especially if these companies or even because we know obviously smaller scale little establishments want to help people out, and I think that's marvelous, but I think it's when it's chased, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly
I think it's chased by everyone, and like I say, I think social media has a lot to do with that. It's like we've got to get our name out there, and of course these companies need to get their name out there. But it's like you say, it's everyone. It's absolutely everyone, and it's like, well, to be a good dancer, you don't have to have that. And to be honest, well,
no, it should be the reward of being a good dancer.
Yes,
and successful. A couple should be sponsored if they demonstrate that they are at the top of their age group or their level, shouldn't they? Really, not any old Tom, Dick, or Harry. And this is the issue, I think. And I was sponsored.
Well, but like you say, it's not really full sponsorships, isn't it? It is
true.
like discounts and things like that, which obviously helps them out. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with acknowledging that and saying, thank you for, part sponsoring, da-di-da-di-da, because that's what you should do, of course. But couples don't need to, I don't feel like couples need to chase it. And then, of course, what happens is if you can't be successful securing, say, a top company, a very well established company, we know one of the ones that have been around a long time, you then go down to, say, someone who's a much smaller business, and then asking them for a discount or free stuff or whatever you can get. And that's where I get a little bit, well, hang on a minute, because they're a small business. That you shouldn't be putting pressure on these smaller businesses, and there's quite a lot of them actually.
There is. It's more and more now than there ever were. To be part of this, sponsorship game, and yes, there might be some benefit for them in that they might get their name out there a little bit more and things like that. But you still got to realise it costs them a lot to put, to run a small business. It's much easier for a bigger company to be able to do these things. And I just sort of think, it's pressure again, isn't it? It's pressure on couples, it's pressure on teachers and judges, and then it's pressure on suppliers. Where do we kind of say, hang on a minute, let's just be a bit more realistic and reasonable about all this? There's no guidelines, are there?
Do couples need to spend this much money on 10 different teachers or more?
Well, no, they don't.
Do they need to be spending £2,000, £3,000 on a dress? Little ones don't spend that, by the way,
No.
but obviously young amateurs used to, who might still be supported by their parents,
Yeah, because they feel they have to keep
Because
up
they
with
feel
everyone
they
else,
have
but they
to.
don't need to at all. They don't need to at all.
And it's like, well, no, we don't really.
'Cause some of the things that people say is that when they're introduced to competitive dancing, they say, "Oh, it's so expensive, isn't it? So expensive." It doesn't have to be.
No.
It's only as expensive as you make it.
Yeah.
Because hiring a hall and practicing on your own, what you've
Yeah.
been learning is not expensive. Not expensive at all. But you have a lesson every day.
That element.
Who we talked about the other day? Someone who has 10 lessons a week,
Oh, I don't know.
and they're children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Children, they have 10 lessons a week.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I know.
absolutely
When I was a
mind-boggling.
kid, we used to have. Now I danced 3 different styles when I was a kid, so we had a lesson for each of those. I think they were half-an-hour lessons at the time, so that's an hour and a half. And then we would practice. There would be a practice night, and then we always got made to do a technique class, actually, which was one of the most beneficial things ever. And yeah, that was it when I was a kid. So what's that? 4 or 5 days a week. That's still a lot, but for a kid,
Yeah.
when you're doing school and other activities and things like that as well, I think that's
Mine was even less, because when I was a junior, and I was one of the top juniors in the country, I danced with a girl from Birmingham. So obviously it's a bit of a trek from Southampton. So we only got together at weekends. So every other weekend we'd be there, or we'd be in Birmingham, or we'd be down in Southampton. So we'd practice on a Friday. We'd have a lesson and a practice on a Friday.
Yeah.
And then we'd have a couple of hours on a Saturday, wherever we were, and then a comp on a Sunday every week. And
Yeah.
that was it.
And how old were you when you did this?
Between 13, 14 and 15
Right.
for 3 years.
Yeah. It didn't sort of do you any harm, did
Did be
it?
all right. Did be good, because also we both had a main school we came from. So I had my school down here,
Yeah.
who we had the lesson with on a Friday, and likewise if we were in Birmingham, we had a lesson with her school in Birmingham on a Friday. Then on the Saturday we'd have lessons. We'd have a ballroom lesson and a Latin lesson in London. One coach,
Yeah.
one ballroom coach, one Latin coach, and then every Sunday we did a comp,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I think...
And that was super. I mean, very clear thoughts.
Yeah.
You're not getting messed up, especially as a child. You need super clear thoughts
Yeah.
that work well with your little team that you've got together. And so we only had 4 teachers.
Yeah.
So her original teacher, my original teacher, and then one Latin teacher and one ballroom teacher
Yeah.
in London on the Saturday. It was very easy, very
Yeah.
clear. You know exactly what your job was. No messing about, no driving around for hours as well,
Yeah.
wasting petrol, wasting time, all these
Yeah.
different lessons, and getting confused, because you don't want to get confused as a kid. You want to be clear with your thoughts.
Yeah.
Just be told what to do. Get on and do that.
Yeah.
And that carried on actually until my youth, into my amateur days.
Also, as
So
well,
that's probably
if
why I did all right.
Like in the younger days, dancing should be kept simpler, shouldn't it? Because you're still laying foundations.
Yeah.
So it's still all about, maybe not your age then, but when you're really little, it's all about your heels and toes and the basic fundamentals of getting those things right. So how many different ways do you need to be told that?
I know.
You don't need
exactly. No, you don't.
You don't need 10 different versions of that, do you?
No, you don't.
You know. Because really, how creative can you get with what's heel toe toe?
Well, yeah.
For instance.
Anyway, I think we've talked a lot about the bad and the ugly. We haven't talked about the good, have we?
The good.
Well, the good. First thing I can say, some people could think this is a bit of an ugly thing, but it makes me cry.
Yeah.
Dancing makes me cry. It's so emotional. Done correctly, it's so beautiful and
That's-
so emotive that there's nothing quite like it, actually.
Yeah.
So, because you become the art, don't you? You become it. So you can look at a piece of art, a sculpture, a painting, a drawing, whatever, and you can appreciate it, and you can feel something about it. But that doesn't
not
reach
the
out and
same.
touch you in the same way. Music does, of course.
Music
so
is
music,
a big part
but
of
music combined with dance and combined with the movements that you then embrace and take on board, it's just absolutely magic. And sometimes competitions take that element away from you
A little bit. Yeah.
So you have to learn. I mean, we didn't when we were competing, but as competitors, you have to try to learn to detach yourself from the competitive aspect and forget you're doing a comp, and you're out there dancing with your partner
Yeah.
to that piece of music for whatever it is, minute 30. It's far too short these days. It used to be longer, and expressing yourselves, and that's the ultimate joy of what we do at a high level, of course, and it's just beautiful. And you can touch so many people, and everyone can can actually feel and see what you're feeling. Actually,
it creates a certain energy, doesn't it? So I feel that, like, if I'm watching someone who I feel is being really authentic, and kind of basically in the way that you're describing there, in that I know that they are really feeling that music, and because I'm watching them and I know they're really feeling that and they're expressing that then filters through to me, and then I think, and you feel a reaction, and it might almost be a sadness. It might also just be like a very pure feeling, like a love, basically. And
it could be something as simple as a breath.
Yeah, and for a couple to be able to do that, I think is one of the most powerful things in the world, really. And dancers don't realise necessarily, not enough dancers, what power they actually hold if they can sort of integrate that into themselves, and then that energy doesn't stop with you. It goes out to everyone who's watching you. And you don't know what effect that could have on someone. It could have such a positive effect on their life. And that's something really special. I feel emotional talking about it.
Yeah,
I don't want to be emotional, but yeah, you sort of think that's such a beautiful thing to be able to do. We're not able to save lives in the fact that we're not surgeons. We can't, put someone's heart back together, or, things like that. But to affect someone emotionally,
in a positive way.
In a positive way is,
as we've discussed on the last podcast as well. So many people are unfortunately in dark places, but dance can bring you out of that.
Absolutely.
Can really bring you out of that.
I think dance for me has been a very dark place at times, but also a really beautiful place.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're not filming this one. It's ridiculous.
So there we go. Dancing can be very, very good.
Very good. It makes you want to cry.
Yeah, it makes you want to cry. Well, that's what I said. It doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is that, and it isn't just that, of course. I mean, even on
it can also just be joyful and
it's
fun.
Joyful, yeah.
Imagine, like, when I watch jive, when I watch a really brilliant couple doing a jive, and you can just tell they are relaxed, but they're kind of really giving it everything, and they're just pumped with energy, and you think, yeah, like, you almost want to swear, but you're like, yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, you can see the joy in what they're doing, can't you?
Yeah.
And the life.
Yeah, and you just think, yeah, it's brilliant. And more people, I think, need to embrace that, even if they're not dancers, even if they're not interested in dancing, even at a social level or anything like that. Just people should come and watch this because they should experience it. It's different to watching something on stage and watching a theatre production, I think, and even other forms of dance like ballet and contemporary and things like that. And I know they can be very emotive experiences, but I think, I don't know, that competitive ballroom world just has something unique that other things can't offer.
And those people that come in and watch, for instance, you need to forget the first half of this this podcast today, and don't think about that at all. And just
ignore all of that.
Take it for what it is when you see it, which is beautiful. I mean, in other respects as well, it's not so much on the dance floor itself as such, but if you think about what dancing can do for a young person. So both of us had great childhoods because of dancing. Because there's many different paths that you can take as a child, many ways that you can go, many ways you can be influenced. But dancing gave us a purpose, and it gave us a direction. And it gave us something to be for health as well. It's great for your conditioning and physical activity. Many children don't have that, don't have a purpose, do they?
And then they get lost.
And they go down the wrong path.
Especially with social media being so prominent in people's lives, especially young people, and then they can get caught up in things that are really negative. So for all the negatives about dancing, there are so many positives. For me, it's just about keeping that level head about the negatives, so how to navigate them.
Well, being informed. Being informed, and this is where
it's kind of like why we want to do this.
We want to do this, of course. But it comes back to the teachers, of course, making sure that they keeps those kids' feet on the ground and advises the parents, and then if they're older, dancers as well, making sure they understand what they've got to do and how they've got to behave and how the world works really in our little silly dance business.
I think it's like I say, just be mindful of getting caught up in things like comparison comparing yourself with others. That's such a negative thing to do anyway.
We've done the bad.
I know,
done the ugly.
no, this is going on to the positive side.
Okay, go on then. I'll let you.
So
I'll let
if
you
you're
continue.
aware of what I wanted to kind of list the negative aspects. So you've got your comparison, you've got jealousy, you've got financial implications. Let's say, what else is there? I'm trying to think now. Anxiety about doing a competition.
Yeah.
Fear. Feelings of not being good enough, because that's a big one for a lot of people anyway, in general
Inadequacy.
life, inadequacy and things like that. So if you're aware, I mean, there could be more. There's probably loads that are more personal to you or whatever. But if you're aware of these things, don't get caught up in them. Don't get caught up, especially comparison, because I think comparison is a big thing with all these pressure on couples to have lessons, judges for making the right decisions, and also in terms of on social media, making sure that you're seen and have all these sponsorships and goodness knows what else. But just be level-headed about it all. Do I need to put this much pressure on myself? Probably not. Where can I lift that a little bit? Could I maybe wear that dress again?
Absolutely.
Why do you need to have a new dress?
That's another thing. We've got about talking about that, actually, about the dresses, didn't we, as well, for some of the couples. They all feel obliged to have a new dress for every comp. Again, I don't want to talk about any more negative bad stuff.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So if you're aware of these things, where can you perhaps take off the pressure somewhere?
Put some music on and have a dance.
Put some music on, dance. Don't book I'm not saying don't book so many lessons, but maybe you need, if it's financially a strain and your family are going through second, third mortgages, perhaps it's time to think, don't need to be doing that.
If someone's getting a second or third mortgage to pay for your dancing, you're not in a position to make those decisions. You're not someone who's going to turn around and say, "Oh, mum and dad don't think you should do that," because there's someone who's
no,
younger.
but when we were professionals, we borrowed a lot of money.
We did
to pay for stuff.
We did.
And we had to pay that back over many, many years. So I'm not just talking about mortgages as such, but do I need to borrow all of this money to be able to pay for things? So just I'm just trying to say, just keep a level head, and find the ways that you can perhaps lift that pressure a little bit, because ultimately it's about the dancing.
Which is open to all, and that's the other good thing about what we do as well, is that anyone can do it. As soon as you can walk until you can't walk anymore, you can dance. Yeah, exactly. And so it appeals to everyone. Tapping into
that energy that we're talking about is also available to anyone. Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter what level you're at.
And that's why the Pro-Am scene is been exploding so much here as well, because people are realising that they can get that same buzz from competing that they've sat and watched for so many years. They can suddenly get out there and do it themselves.
Why shouldn't everyone be able to have a go?
Everyone should be able to have a go. It's great. I mean, that's like my old bat that I dance with, Hillary, all 116 years young. So she's still going. She still gives her joy. That's what she wants to do with her life. It's great, and it's such a wonderful thing.
It gives you the joy. It also gives you a sense of achievement, because obviously
purpose.
Just learning to dance in itself is a challenge for a lot of people. So if they can go out there in front of others and dance a competition or take part in a competition, that in itself is a sense of achievement. Doesn't matter where you come. You can be dead last. Really doesn't matter. I shouldn't say dead. Sorry. You can come last. Really doesn't matter. No. The fact that you've gone out there and done it is a big thing.
And if you keep doing it, you'll get better.
Yeah.
You'll get better.
Yeah. And like we say, you don't, have to put a lot of pressure on yourself. You just got to do it more. One thing I always say to people that we teach is that there's no secret ingredient to being a better dancer. It's just do it more.
Hard work.
Do it more. Yeah. Repetition.
Yeah.
There's no magic substance or magic shoes or anything like that. It's just
we have got some magic shoes, but we wear them ourselves. We don't share those, do we?
But do you know what I mean? Like, couples are always like, "Oh, how do you get as good as you?" It's like, it's just time. Like we said, time for doing it for so long.
And if you keep looking after yourself, you can keep doing it.
Looking after yourself is going to be another.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that another time.
Podcast topic, isn't it?
I haven't finished with some of my good things. You keep interrupting me with my good things.
Sorry, you got more good things.
We even in our little adventures, we've travelled all over the world because of dancing. It's been amazing what we've seen. So we've been so lucky to have travelled to almost every continent for dance.
Yeah. I feel
and
really
blessed.
grateful.
Yeah, wonderfully
Really
blessed
grateful.
and wonderfully grateful. We've met some beautiful people
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. We've got friends
Yeah.
now in countries all over the world,
Yeah.
and we've been able to experience things that we would never in a million years have dreamt that we
Yeah.
could experience
Yeah.
because of dance.
Yeah.
And it makes you a better person, I believe, having those
Well,
experiences.
I think
a bigger, it grows you as a person.
you grow when you travel, and we've had some travelling experiences that have been
Not so nice,
some
of
of
course.
them not so nice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm ever so grateful that we've had them, all of them, absolutely all of them. The good, like I say, the good, bad, and the ugly, because it's helped me become the person I am today, and I like to think I'm a pretty good person.
Well, you do for now.
Yeah, you're a
You'll
pretty
do for
good
now.
person, But like it's nice to be able to look back upon what you've done in the past, and be able to say, do you know what? I messed up there. I really did mess up, and I wasn't so good then. And I'm not talking about not as a dancer, but as a person. I wasn't so good then because I was caught up in negativity. It's nice to be able to look back and say, but you know what? That's okay. Doesn't make me a bad person. It just means I've grown, I've developed, and I am who I am. And it's nice to feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of dancers, I think when you dance, you go on a journey. Not just a dance journey, but a life journey, don't you? You
I
learn
do.
so many life lessons.
Yeah.
And we've, like say, when we've travelled, we've had some bad experiences, but gosh, we've seen some amazing stuff as well. And when you see that polarity,
Disparity.
disparity in when you travel, it humbles you, doesn't it? We are so lucky where we live.
We are.
Everyone might moan about the UK and things like that, but we are so lucky where we live. When you compare it to the way other people live in different countries, and you think, gosh,
But do you know something that I see wherever we've gone is smiles.
Yeah.
Actually, generally around the dance, actually everyone's
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
No one's
Yeah.
miserable. Doesn't matter what they've come from.
Yeah. You're right, actually.
Mm.
We've always, wherever we've danced, wherever we've taught, people have always laughed, haven't they? Yeah, from teeny tots to
Old farts.
old farts, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good in that then, isn't there? It does bring people together, and I think what's beautiful about it brings people who perhaps wouldn't meet otherwise.
Yes.
Because if you think about the people we've met.
Well, it's such a
dancing,
diversity of people. You've got such diversity of
you
people
can
because
meet
it's from
pilots
every.
and-
Well, yeah, it's from every walk of life. Dance
Yeah.
is accessible to each and every person on this planet, and many people just do it anyway, don't they? You don't need to have lessons to dance. Of course, you just put some music on and have a boogie. You can even be some sort of contemporary dancer and do it without music and dance to the beat of your own drum. Can't you? Your own
that would
internal
be
drum.
tapping into some other energies.
I'm actually while we're talking about this, I've thought of a show actually with us just dancing without music.
Oh, right.
We'd have to be topless.
No, it's not
No?
going to happen.
Oh, okay.
Why would we do that?
I don't know.
That's not a good idea.
No, I'm only joking. We have to be topless. But no, it's something that you can so that you can see the body moving. So it has to be tight clothes.
Anyway,
Anyway,
they
that's,
do
that's
that
a
in
thought.
contemporary.
I know,
Yeah.
but I was thinking of some sort of ballroomy dance. Anyway,
Keep that in your head.
see, as you said, my mind never stops.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
It's going all the
See
time.
what I mean, people? See what I mean?
All the time. All the time. So when I was looking into the distance earlier, like I was dribbling, that's when I was thinking about that particular dance.
That's really odd.
Yeah, I know.
You've made me think of, though, another beautiful thing about dancing is that it celebrates masculinity and femininity. Especially at the moment where, things are a little bit skewed in that area. I think what's really beautiful is that dance really does celebrate the masculine in its I don't want to say pure, in its what's the word I'm looking for, not toxic, like opposite to that,
Opposite to toxic.
divine, like
Divine.
Divine, so let's say
Divine masculinity.
divine masculine and divine feminine.
Yeah.
When you watch a couple dance, and I'm thinking of more, say, but it could be in any form of dance, but
The show dance. Yeah.
show dance type stuff, because the man's lifting her and all that sort of thing, and obviously he generally looks like quite a strong man, and I think it's nice to see that and celebrate that, because it's kind of like, well, the man is supporting her, and he's not just supporting her, but he's supporting this beautiful feminine woman who's just showing off these beautiful shapes and things that she can create.
And she's completely dependent on him.
And yeah.
Completely.
And she is able to do that, and she's able to shine because she's got that support behind her. And I think that's a really important thing to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think somewhere along the line we're kind of losing that a little bit. And it worries me that people are worried to celebrate that. And I just want to say, actually,
because we're not all
we
the
need
same.
to keep celebrating that.
We're not all the
because
same, are we?
That's still a beautiful thing. And I'm not saying, you know, that the other things aren't good or whatever. Each to their own. But let's not forget that actually that is a beautiful thing to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
And dance really shows that off. You know, when I watch a ballroom couple, and, you know, the man is the frame, the lady is the picture. That's how it was described to me when I was young. You know, she is the picture. He wants to show her off. And again, like, he's supporting her. The man's arms are underneath the lady's. So he can guide and lead her around the floor.
And same in the Latin as well, because you'll get that the same when you've got the big, strong, masculine man showing his lady off as she dances around him, and then he does some things as well. Of course, Latin's a little bit different to the ballroom, but it's the same sort of thing, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, and
that's why the men generally are taller than the ladies. Doesn't work so well when the man's shorter than the lady, does it, in a competition environment?
You know, that's a you know, kind of a practical thing, isn't it? Because it's about being able to support from underneath and things like that. But and there's a little bit of aesthetics, I suppose, involved in that as well.
Well,
it's just the way the frame and the holder are. But yeah, basically, I think it's a beautiful thing to be empowered by that, not to dismiss it as something that's almost not true anymore. Because for me, it feels like the truest thing in the world.
People would say that that's because we've got traditional values, I suppose, but there's nothing wrong with tradition. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not even really about being traditional. It's just,
I think people would say that.
I am happy in that role. You know, celebrating femininity, and I don't mean it in a submissive way.
Well, no, these women are very empowered. I mean, if you take the show dance as an example, those women are superbly strong and have amazing ability and strength, aren't they?
Yeah.
To do what they do, they have to be.
But you know, I think it's important to continue to. And
the focal point is them as well, so they have to be good, don't they? So there's nothing submissive about that.
No, that's what I mean. I think, you know, I worry sometimes that people are aware of that, and now in dance, and I'm sort of like, oh, hang on a minute.
I'd hate to dance with a wet lettuce of a woman, a submissive wet lettuce woman.
Yeah.
Or man, doesn't matter. Yeah. Anything, you know, you still need to have something about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being your truth. A strength and being your truth.
Yeah.
About who you are.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think that's a nice thing to.
Yeah, it's probably a nice thing to finish on. Yeah.
Okay. Have we waffled enough?
You've waffled more than I.
You've waffled pretty well.
Oh, stop it! You found your voice in these last couple of months.
Do you think so?
Yeah, more so. Yeah, I would say definitely if someone was to do the analysis of the 2 podcasts that we've done so far, you definitely did more talking than me.
I don't mean to.
That's okay. I'll let you. People would argue that normally you never get the chance to speak, but that's because you chose not to.
Yeah.
It's not because I didn't allow you to.
No.
You just chose not to.
I'm not one that wants to be in the limelight.
I know that. Neither. Actually, funnily enough, contrary to popular belief, neither am I.
No, I know you're not.
But people would always argue that.
I think we're both just keen to express, aren't we?
When we need to, when we have to. Yeah, when it's important.
I just hope that things like this will just help people.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's hope they've listened all the way to the end.
And
it's a long one today.
Yeah. That's okay.
So, right. Yeah.
Podcast.
We had a lot to say, didn't we? Well, no, sorry. You had a lot to say.
Oh, stop it. So, next one, I'm going to shut up. Shall I even be in the room? Shall I just leave?
Well, okay.
You can just have the James show.
No, I don't. I can't talk to myself. I can't talk to myself.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Let's leave it there, shall we?
I think so.
Well, that's the good, the bad and the ugly. Well, it was the bad and the ugly and the good, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps we should title it that. The bad, the ugly and the good.
No, it's fine as it is. We explained at the beginning, didn't
Dancing is a little bit like a Western, isn't it? It's a bit like that. A bit like the Wild West at times.
Yeah.
Lawless, almost.
Lawless.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bit.
But we all need a bit of Clint Eastwood in us, don't we? To succeed in the dance business.
Yeah, I just think I hope people become a little bit more positive from it. And hopefully through that positivity we make a change, because there's an opportunity, isn't there? Dancing's almost been given a bit of a clean slate. There's a lot of things going on in the dance world that are upsetting people, and I sort of think, well, there's an opportunity then to change things for the better. And like I said, I don't think that will happen unless we all change.
But it starts by changing that person in the mirror, doesn't it? So everyone needs to look in the mirror and they need to...
Yeah, I'm not talking about like, I want to change other people. I know you and I have changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, everyone has the potential to work on themselves a bit.
But we can hopefully...
Collectively, it'd make a big change.
But hopefully we can help. So we're here to help people if they need it.
Yeah, definitely.
To make a positive change.
Yeah.
Because this dancing business is beautiful, people. It's beautiful.
It's worth,
it's worth salvaging. It's worth working on.
I have tried to get out of it.
You have. You've desperately tried. It keeps pulling you back.
It keeps pulling me back, and maybe one day I will get out of it. You never know. But as long as it's still pulling me back, then I'll keep trying to make a positive change. Yeah. But it does start with self, and if we all do that, I think that will help. The whole thing.
We've all just got to dance more and worry less, Kel.
Yeah.
Dance more and worry less.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Anyway, we'll leave it there, shall we?
Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, James.
See you in the next one.